Hello again, this is Peter Hundlinger from c4D. Welcome to another upgrade training video. Today I'm going to show you an upgrade training for our c4D software with the version 6.1.2 Service Pack 1 and 6.1.3 Service Pack 1. And yes, you have heard right, we have two different releases. The reason for that I will show you a little bit later. And as in the last upgrade training video, we are going through the new features of our releases, of course, and the most relevant and interesting bug fixes we have applied. Furthermore, the known issues, and last but not least, some of the most frequently asked questions that you might ask yourself about the upgrade progress. So let's grab a coffee and enjoy the interesting part. Let me send ahead for whom this upgrade is and why we have two releases. This training is meant for installations that upgraded from software version c4D 6.1.2 to c4D 6.1.2 Service Pack 1, or even further to 6.1.3 Service Pack 1. If you are upgrading from earlier versions, please check the previous training video for 6.1.2 first. The reason for this release split is simply that not all users will benefit from all changes we have implied. Thus, we decided to optimize our validation process and only include specific installations for each configuration, like Elekta, Accuray or Varian. Currently, all c4D users in an Elekta environment with Catalyst or Catalyst Plus can upgrade to c4D 6.1.3 Service Pack 1. The same applies for all Accuray tomotherapy and Radixact system. They also support c4D 6.1.3 Service Pack 1, both for Catalyst and Catalyst Plus. For Varian users instead, only the closed gantry solution for Halcyon is available with 6.1.3 Service Pack 1. C-Series Linux and TrueBeam installations can upgrade to c4D 6.1.2 Service Pack 1, whereas this only affects Catalyst Plus. And all remaining installations, such as Siemens Linux and IBA Proton for instance, the latest valid software for c4D remains 6.1.2. Also all CT installations with Sentinel 4D CT remain on 6.1.2. And finally, the c4D server also needs to be upgraded accordingly for 6.1.3 Service Pack 1. And the great thing is that this version is also downwards compatible to 6.1.2 for the first time, which makes client-by-client upgrades much easier in the field. Now that we know all valid configurations, let's go through all the relevant changes and details and how they might affect you and what you can expect from them. Let me start with the upgrade for 6.1.2 Service Pack 1, which is delivered in the c4D build 6.1.2.8144. There is one main change in the software, which is for temperature control for Catalyst Plus, and one relevant bug fix, which was done for the special character issue from earlier versions of c4D. Since we have seen a significant drift of the isocenter due to temperature raise during clinical operation, we have improved the temperature control of the Catalyst platform. An automatic system warm-up dialog will appear once you start the Catalyst clinical mode, should the system not be at the right operating temperature. As long as the c4D software runs, this optimal temperature is also maintained throughout the whole clinical operation by actively keeping the system warm. You might notice that the projection unit lights up, however, there is no projection directed towards the patient, since the mirror in the projector blocks the light. Furthermore, during clinical operation hours, the system is automatically kept warm. Should you operate Catalyst Plus outside of your configured clinical hours, a 1-hour timer counts down to put the system into sleep mode after the system was used the last time. And finally, if you keep the c4D software running overnight, the system also automatically warms up in time so that Catalyst is ready to go when you start your patients or your daily QA. The operating hours are configurable for each room in the c4D client config tool. During a warm-up procedure, which can take up to 15 minutes for cold systems, it is not recommended to use Catalyst for patient treatments or to perform any quality assurance. However, it is of course possible, with the limitation that the warm-up dialog remains in the middle of the Catalyst screen and that we cannot guarantee full precision. Once the c4D software is shut down, the Catalyst Plus units will be put into sleep mode, which decreases the temperature. Should you consider a software restart, you might need to wait for another system warm-up depending on the time the restart took. A full computer reboot, which might take up to several minutes, will result in an even longer warm-up period. Hence, I therefore recommend starting the Catalyst clinical mode as soon as possible to initiate the warm-up process. The advanced mode can then be used without any limitations in parallel to the warm-up process. And now to the bug fix of version 6.12 Service Pack 1. As mentioned in the last upgrade training video, in the section Known Issues, special characters such as ä, ö and ü, etc. are not correctly communicated through the Elekta ICOM interface due to a conversion issue from 32-bit to 64-bit. This problem is now solved. Special characters are correctly displayed again. And this brings me to the currently newest version of c4D, which is 6.13 Service Pack 1. The main reasons for this release are changes for closed gantry solutions such as tomotherapy or Halcyon. Let me first discuss the other features that all users will commonly benefit from before going into the details for closed gantry specific. Up until now, pushing the override button for C-Motion and therefore deactivating the beam hold for Catalyst was not documented anywhere in our software. This was changed with the latest version. Once the override was confirmed, it will be indicated in the session report and C-Motion results with the override symbol. Also new in c4D is a warning that will be generated when you adjust the scan volume so that at least one gating spot of an active C respiration reference is outside of this volume. This is to prevent that the surface where a gating spot is placed is not cropped, resulting in a situation where no gating signal can be measured due to a missing surface. Then there are three changes regarding the database. First, the warning that the database size is close to maximum has been extended so that now the Catalyst clinical mode is blocked from usage, so that the warning cannot be ignored anymore, which could otherwise result in a system freeze since no additional data can be stored anymore during patient operation when the database, respectively the disk, is full. The database warning level can be configured in the c4D server config tool and is set by the CRAD field service engineer according to the available disk space. I recommend performing patient data archiving regularly depending on your system, at least once every quarter or more often if you have more systems connected to your c4D server. Please check out our video for how to archive patients for further information. Furthermore, in c4D Advanced mode, under View, you can now select the point Database Storage. This shows you the current database utilization and its limits. And the third point regarding database is that another additional warning is issued when the disk space of the c4D server is running low to prevent the system from not being able to operate anymore. This warning appears during the start of the c4D software if the hard disk drive where the c4D database is located has less than 5% space left. Should any of these warnings appear, please notify the responsible person to manage these situations accordingly by archiving patients or providing more disk space. And now to the closed gantry specific changes in c4D 6.13. We currently support the Accuray tomotherapy and RadXact systems, where the couch continuously moves longitudinally during treatment, and the variant Halcyon, where we have a configurable longitudinal offset between the setup, the outer, and the treatment, the inner position. Let me start with Accuray. The couch motion for Accuray system is tracked during treatment actively with our couch tracking laser, similarly to Sentinel. And with the c4D version 6.13 Service Pack 1, both C-Position and C-Motion are supported for Catalyst HD and Catalyst Plus HD systems. Also, there is a separate camera setting section for the setup and for the treatment position. The exposure settings can be selected from the patient settings screen in clinical mode, and the default values for high, medium and low can be changed in advanced mode for both positions. Furthermore, in both setup and treatment mode, the camera settings can be adjusted during treatment. Also for Varian Halcyon installations, we added support for C position and C motion, and even for C respiration, but currently only with manual beam control. Therefore, we have adjusted the acoustic and visual signal for patient movement so that the beam hold indicator is easily visible for the user. And each time a beam should be held, a little beep appears. The setup position uses a combined surface image from all three catalyst units. The treatment position, however, is managed only by the middle catalyst unit. When switching to the treatment mode, you are asked to move the couch by the longitudinal offset before proceeding with the workflow. And finally, we have also improved our QA procedures for closed gantry systems. That means for both Accuray and Varian. We now check the isosender in the outer setup position with a tolerance of 1 mm, as well as the inner position for treatment, also with a tolerance of 1 mm. And also in the QA procedures, you can adjust the camera settings for the setup and the treatment position separately. Alright, now to the bug fixes that we have been able to apply to our new software version. I will combine the fixes from 613 and 613 Service Pack 1 here for easier understanding. First, when deleting any old inactive C respiration reference in c4D advanced mode, the current active C respiration reference became inactive, and then you needed to manually reactivate the reference. And yeah, this was resolved now. Secondly, we resolved an issue where the target tolerance dropped by 1 mm due to an incorrect rounding error. Third, in earlier versions of c4D, it was possible to set the scan volume box so that the maximum plane could be moved over the minimum plane and vice versa, which resulted in a wrong scan volume setup. When you now move the planes, the opposite plane will move with it accordingly. And finally, sometimes the field rotation change dialog appeared even though the same rotation for couch was selected, and yeah, this was also cleared. And this brings me to our still known issues in 613 Service Pack 1. To not make this video unnecessarily long, I will skip most of the known issues that we have already handled in the previous upgrade training video. But some are new or newly discovered, and some of them I just want to repeat since they are quite relevant for the majority. So please have a look into the release notes for further information. The first still known issue is when you input multiple plans into c4D. It can occur that the C respiration reference is not copied to all sites within the group. Also, activating and inactivating the respiration reference does not apply in the same way. The workaround for this issue is still to do a little change, like to correct the reference, for instance by changing the name. Then it will be copied to all sites within the group. Please make sure to double check the references after import for grouped plans. Another issue concerns only Catalyst Tomo installations. In the daily check mode, Catalyst does not display a couch position value when you perform the vertical calibration manually instead of automatically. You can get around this by restarting the daily check, which therefore restarts the automatic vertical calibration. And finally, an issue that concerns C accessory, the connection status can be ambiguous and not clear to the user. The notification RFID disconnected can mean either that the RFID reader is offline or that it is not correctly configured. However, if it has worked once already, the option that it is offline, that means not powered on, is more likely. And this brings me to the last chapter, which is the frequently asked questions. So one question could be, who performs the c4D upgrades? The c4D software upgrades are performed by the C-RAD field service engineers, of course, or by your local distributor, either during an installation, a preventive maintenance, or a service visit. Does the c4D server also need to be upgraded? Yes, the current c4D server version is also 613 Service Pack 1. The big advantage here is that it will be backwards compatible. That means that the server can be upgraded to 613, but the clients for Catalyst, Sentinel or Office can remain on, for instance, 612 and it's not a must to upgrade. However, it's not possible the other way around, of course, to leave the server on 612. How long does the upgrade take? Usually the upgrades for the Catalyst and Sentinel clients are quite fast and should be done in less than 2 minutes. However, there are also tests to be performed after the upgrade, which is why the whole upgrade can take up to 60 minutes per client. And depending on the size of the c4D database, the backup can also take longer, but usually not more than 30 minutes. How long does the warm-up feature take? The Catalyst Plus systems should not take longer than about 15 minutes to reach its saturation temperature. However, a colder room than originally can influence this naturally. So it's important to let us know if you experience very long warm-up times, so that we can optimize the temperature settings. Do you also offer remote upgrades for c4D? Yes, of course. The c4D software upgrade can be performed remotely. We just need internet access to the Catalyst or to the Sentinel clients, and of course to the c4D server, if it's a dedicated server or a virtual server. Still, there are some tests to be performed after the upgrade, and these need to be done by someone who's on site. These tests basically check the system for its full clinical operation after the upgrade and consist of performing a daily check, loading a patient, etc. There are detailed instructions available for these tests that we are happy to provide. Do I need to reschedule my patients for the upgrade? Well, we need to perform the upgrade outside of your patient operation anyway, since the c4D server also needs to be updated, and this cannot be performed during it is in use by a Catalyst or Sentinel client treating patients. However, the clients can already be upgraded if they are free, but the tests can only be performed after the whole system is up to date. So, if you could end your clinical operation earlier to give us access, you would help us to smoothen the upgrade process. Does someone from the clinic need to be available on site? Yes, this is quite important because of the tests that we need to perform after the upgrade, and also because the Linux and the CTs need to be operated by someone from the clinic. What else can I do to prepare for an upgrade? First, you can clean your database by archiving inactive patients. If you don't know how to do this, contact your c4D application specialist or watch our video for how to archive patients. And secondly, during the system's tests, we need a treatment plan that is scheduled on the Linux. A simple QA plan with a treatment beam is enough to test the patient sync, beam hold and couch interfaces. Please prepare this plan and export it to c4D, or let us know if a plan already exists. Do I need to ask someone for the upgrade? No, this is not necessary. You don't need to ask. You will be contacted by the c4D service and support department. However, if you want to know more information, for instance when an upgrade can be scheduled, you are free to contact us directly or get in touch with your distributor. Wonderful! This is it for the upgrade training to c4D 612 Service Pack 1 and 613 Service Pack 1. If you have additional questions or you want to have further information about the software releases, please check out the release notes for Catalyst and Sentinel. The upgrade instructions with the tests to be performed will be also sent to you and are included in the c4D file. Thanks for watching. See you next time.